Over-explaining doesn't make people trust you more. It makes them trust you less. And the reason this is happening isn't because you're dishonest. It's because your nervous system decided a long time ago that silence was dangerous. And it has been trying to fill that silence ever since. And the people around you, whether they can name it or not, can feel exactly what is happening every time you do it. Over-explaining is not a communication problem. It's anxiety wearing a communication problem as a disguise. Here is what is actually happening beneath the surface every time you over-explain. You are not trying to be understood. You are trying to control how someone feels about you. And the reason why you want to control it is that you don't trust who you are without the explanation, without the context, without the 4 follow-up messages is enough. That is not a communication issue. That is a self-trust issue. And no amount of better phrasing will fix what is fundamentally a nervous system response to the fear of being seen negatively. The more anxious you are about how someone perceives you, the more you try to control their reaction through words. And the more you do that, the weaker your frame becomes. I want to be clear about something before we go any further. You are not weak for this. You are not broken. You are not fundamentally flawed. What you are is someone whose nervous system learned early that being misunderstood or judged or disconnected from someone was a threat worth defending against. So it built a defense, and that defense was words. More words. Always more words. The problem is, what protected you back then is costing you now. Because the people in your life today aren't reading the words. They're reading the energy behind them. And the energy behind over-explaining reads as one thing: desperation to be approved. Therefore, the habit didn't start in your last relationship or your last argument. It started the first time silence felt like a verdict, and it's been running on autopilot ever since. But here is where it gets more specific, because there's a very precise pattern to how it shows up, and once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Here is the pattern in real time. You send the text, it feels fine when it leaves your hands, and then the silence starts. Then your nervous system starts scanning for different problems. Oh, did I say too much? Did it land wrong? Should I have said this differently? And before that question can fully form, you are already typing up a follow-up message for the original message. Not because it was wrong, but because the silence was so unbearable. The loop that follows after is even more dangerous than the original message itself. You start replaying the conversation, questioning every single word. Did I say too much? Did I make myself look weak? Should I have left it alone? And with every replay, your self-image takes another quiet hit. This is not reflection. This is your nervous system punishing you for something that hasn't even happened yet. The most revealing version of this is when it's in person. There's a pause in a conversation, a moment of tension, an unreadable expression, and immediately you start talking. Not because you actually have something of substance to say, it's because the silence feels like a verdict. You are using your words to escape a feeling, and the person in front of you notices it and subconsciously files it away. Here is what they file. This person needs my approval to feel okay. And whether they do it consciously or not, the whole entire dynamic shifts. Because now they're just not talking to you. Now they're managing you. And here is the deepest layer of all of this, the one where most content refuses to go. You have confused being understood with having everyone agree with you. Those two are not the same. Emotionally grounded people understand these two things. If someone wants to understand you, they will ask questions. If someone wants to misunderstand you, no amount of talking will fix it. The explanation was never for them. It was always for you. The more you chase understanding, the weaker your frame becomes. Here is where the villain in all this gets named, because this pattern didn't just happen in a vacuum. There's a cultural belief quietly running in the background of every over-explanation you've ever given, somewhere along the way. And this was subtle, so stay with me. You were taught that explaining yourself fully was how you earned emotional safety. That if you could just make someone understand your intention, that they couldn't possibly misread you. So a generation of men learned to perform clarity as a form of self-confidence, to use a volume of words as a substitute for certainty of self, to explain their way out of discomfort rather than learning to sit inside of it. And the cruel irony is this: the more you explain, the more you expose and signal that you don't trust your own position. And the more you signal that, the less safe the other person feels in your presence. Therefore, here is the framework that actually addresses this, not at the level of what you say, but at the level of how you say it. 3 parts, and each of them build on top of each other. So, let's get into it. This framework has 3 parts: regulation, reduction, reaffirmation. And the reason the order matters is because most people try to start with reduction. They try to say less, but they haven't addressed what's making them say more in the first place. So the silence fills them with dread, and then they snap back into the same pattern within a matter of days. You start with the body, then the message, then the boundary, in that order. To further illustrate this, let's go ahead and switch to the Miro board. So now we've joined up on the Miro board, so I'm not here to waste any time. Let's get straight into it. So what part 1 is, like I've already explicitly said, and I'll write this one out, it is regulation. Very simple, straightforward. Now, before you say anything, before you type anything, you have to come back to your body. Now, this is not a spiritual thing. It's not because of that. It's because it's literally neurological. You cannot communicate clarity from a dysregulated nervous system, and that's just the reality of it. And most men don't realize that they are communicating from a survival state every time they over-explain. That's the thing. So let's go deeper into it. So I want to zoom in on the word regulation for you guys, because I want you to read it and really implement it. So the practical implementation of this in person is this: before you react to social tension, ground yourself physically. Look, there's 3 techniques that can work for you. You can pick and choose which one, or use all 3. 1, you can rub your index finger and your thumb together and feel the sensation. So that way it brings you back to your body. You can press your toes in your shoes and press it to the ground. So that way you can get back to regulation. Or even just taking 1 deep, like just fully belly breath. You get me? Just get really deep into the gut. So what that does, like, these are not comfort exercises. These are pattern interruptions. They are there to create the gap between your trigger and the response. You get me? So in messaging, this is a different situation now. When you feel the urge to immediately defend yourself, explain your intentions, or even just send that other paragraph, stop completely, dead in your tracks, okay? Bring yourself back to the body. Now, put your phone down. I mean, physically. Slow down your breathing deliberately. You are not pausing to build a strategy. You are pausing because your body needs time to think instead of react. This is creating that space that is necessary. Here is what is chemically happening to you when you don't do this. So cortisol, which is the stress hormone, is flooding your body. Your thinking completely narrows. And from that state, every word you send is coming from anxiety trying to regain that control. It doesn't work like that, because it's not coming from genuine communication. And the person receiving it, you don't think about this, feels the difference even if they can't necessarily name it, all right? The regulation step right here, it's so important and so vital because it's not about suppressing what you feel. It is about making sure what you feel doesn't make the decision for you. Now, to summarize this in one complete sentence, let's go ahead and do this. It would be feel the trigger, right? Don't engage. Ground physically first. So what would be fingers, for example, I'll even bold that up. So it could be something as far as just relaxing your hands, not clenching them, because that's detrimental. Feet, so literally just standing firm, putting your feet into the ground. You ever done that before? You know what it's like to do that. So just making sure you do that. And really, most importantly, because this is vital to life, is breathing, just calming down, taking deep breaths to help slow down your heart rate. All right, then what that does, take away the bold, create the gap, then communicate. All right, guys, so now that we see, this is everything from part one, regulation, okay? But I want you to understand this. You cannot communicate with clarity from a dysregulated nervous system, all right? Regulate first, speak second. Cool? Therefore, once your nervous system is back online, part two, what I'm pointing at right here, is where you actually communicate. And the instruction here is simpler than anything else in this video. I'm not gonna lie to you. So to further push along, let's go ahead and move on to part number two. Part two is what we discussed earlier, reduction. All right, say exactly what you mean once. Use simple, declarative sentences, not 3 reasons, not 2 paragraphs of context, not a disclaimer before the point and an apology after, okay? Once, then silence. Not as a game, not to manipulate, all right? Because you are not trying to force an emotional outcome. You are simply saying what is true and that trusting it is enough, okay? So understanding what reduction really means and how to really implement this. Guys, the practical implementation of this is instead of listing 3 reasons why you can't attend something, you say, that doesn't work for me. Something simple as that. And instead of explaining your emotional state for 2 paragraphs, you say, I need some space right now, okay? The sentence doesn't need supporting evidence. Look, guys, this is not a court case. Don't get it twisted. You're not on trial, okay? Slow down. Understand this. It is a statement of your reality, and your reality does not require approval to be valid. Get this. Silence after a clear message. So I'll zoom in. I just kind of want to zoom in so you guys get a better picture, right? Silence after a clear statement is not aggression. It is not coldness. It is just confidence in what you just said. And that kind of confidence, look, the kind that doesn't need the other person to immediately agree with you, is precisely what emotionally grounded communication looks and feels like to everyone else around you. Look, here's the fun thing. You think that silence creates uncertainty. And really, I mean, it does. But the uncertainty is theirs to sit in, not yours to fix. The moment you rush to fill in the silence, you have taken their discomfort into your own body and you started managing it for them. Stop doing that. We're dead in the water with that. Leave it alone. People who care about understanding you will ask clarifying questions, like I alluded to earlier. People who want to misunderstand you will do so regardless of how many words you give them. It doesn't matter. You can give them a whole Harry Potter book. They're still going to misunderstand you because that's what they've chosen. So therefore, move like this. One clear message is enough for the first group. And for the second group, nothing ever would have been enough. So nip it in the bud. All right, guys. So to summarize this part 2, let me show you what I mean. All right. It is not yours to fill. Oh, forgot the extra L. And what we'll do, yeah, change that exactly to what we had before. Boom. All right, guys. You see right here, one clear message, then silence, not as a game because you trust what you said. But the hardest part isn't saying it once. The hardest part is what happens next. When they push back, when they question it, when it seems that they're confused or upset, and your nervous system is screaming at you to explain. That's where part 3 lives. All right, so to move on to the last part, let's go ahead and write it in. Reaffirmation. All right, guys, and the last one of the 3 R's and the 3 parts is reaffirmation. All right, look, understand this. You are not obligated to debate your own feelings. You are not required to provide more evidence every time someone pushes back. If they push, you reaffirm. You do not defend. That is the difference. Look, and that difference is truly everything. So let's go deeper into it. When you defend, think about it. It sounds like this. No, but what I meant was, and the reason I said that is because, and I want you to understand that I wasn't trying to, you hear the tone, you hear the speech. Defending is your nervous system trying to retroactively earn approval for a decision that has already happened. Look, reaffirming, which is different, sounds like this. I hear you. My decision remains the same. That is it. Simple. And the reason this works is it's not a tactic. Look, it's not that. It's because it is the honest behavioral expression of someone who actually trusts their position. The test of whether that boundary is real is not how you clearly state it. It is whether you can hold it under that pressure. Because anyone can say the right thing once, all right? The frame is proven in the second and the third exchange. When the discomfort is at its highest and that pull to cave in is the strongest, are you ready to survive under that storm? All right? Look, emotionally stable communication requires tolerating a certain level of uncertainty without losing your frame. Now, not forever. Don't get it twisted. Just long enough to let the other person process what you actually said instead of what their reaction expected you to say. And this is the part where the dynamic changes because more than anything else, over time, the people around you are going to stop testing your boundaries. Not because they gave up, it's more so because they learned that your boundaries are real and they're enforced like the law. So there's no point in even trying you. That is what you're looking for. So to summarize everything together, let me write this final summary and we'll move on from the framework. Choosing to prioritize sleep over friends' night out. That's a good example because you're gonna have to choose yourself in that situation and really manage their reactions to what you're deciding to do and standing firm. Don't give in to that pressure. Holding the line is the proof All right, guys. So, as I zoom out of this framework, you see exactly what all three parts are: regulation, reduction, reaffirmation. In that order, because without regulation, reduction is impossible. And without reduction, reaffirmation has nothing to hold. Understand this, guys. Emotionally grounded people can tolerate being misunderstood temporarily because they know their worth doesn't require immediate confirmation. Everything in this framework starts with one rule, and it is simple enough to start today. When you feel the urge to over-explain, send one clear, concise message. No double text to manage your anxiety. No paragraph to control their perception. No follow-up to soften what you already said. One response. Then embrace the pause. While you wait, this is the part that most people really skip, and it's managing your physical state. Deep, calm breathing, relaxing your shoulders, deliberately understanding where the anxiety is coming from and breathing into it rather than escaping from it through your phone. This is not passivity. This is self-regulation. And self-regulation is the foundation of every single framework you will ever use. Over time, and I actually want to be specific about what I mean over time, you are going to develop these three things. One of them is emotional control, which means your emotional state won't be determined by other people's responses. Stronger presence, which means people feel your groundedness before you even speak. And healthier relationships. Look, people do not trust desperate energy. They trust calm energy. They trust the person who says the thing once and truly means it. The most important thing to understand about this rule is what it is not. It is not emotional suppression. It is not stonewalling. It is not playing games with the people you care about. What it truly is being able to communicate from your actual self rather than from the fear of how your actual self would be received. That's why if you find that this is something you're still struggling with, it may go deeper than over-explaining. It may be pointing to something underneath. Attachment patterns that have been running long before this relationship, long before this conversation, long before you knew that there is something to address. And that's why the next video you need to watch is actually last week's. If you haven't already, the video name is Anxiety Enters to Protect You, then it stays to control you. Because that video goes to the roots of what this video only touches the surface of. Because here is the truth about every over-explanation you have ever given. You are not trying to be understood. You are trying to make sure that if they left, it wouldn't be because they didn't know the real you. But the thing is, the real you says the thing once and trusts that it was enough.